All right, welcome. My name is Johannes and Mikko. I'm one of the founders of Deep Dives, full-time instructor for all of the cloud hyperscalers. And together with me, I have my old friend Mikko, whom I've either been working with or working against, I guess, for the past
both
20 plus years, soon 30, right?
We have similar background, software development, software architecture. We both started before this became our profession. We started with computers in the late 80s, maybe.
So we're testing out a live stream for the first time. So we're kind of, working with the streaming platform. And this is currently live streamed to YouTube. And then I've set it up in such a way that we're going to record the original video individually for everybody to maybe make something out of it later on. And then in addition to that, the whole stream will also be recorded, both in StreamYard and in YouTube. And then we can worry about whether that needs to be public or not, maybe a little bit later. But the topic of today was reInvent. And we both were there, and we came back. Like my question for you, Mikko, is how did reInvent change you?
Come again? How did
reInvent change you? How are you different now from before you left?
I'm even more excited about the AWS services and the community. That definitely changed a little bit. A little bit more tired after being there for a week. That was from that point of view, it was fun, but not challenging, but fun, but how should I say? Well, hard trip in a good way, but still.
Yeah, it is tired.
Too much content to summarize it. That's for sure.
So this was I think my third time in reInvent, and Mikko's first one. So I'm kind of interested, Mikko, in what are your kind of key takeaways as a kind of a newbie? Like, what are there any mistakes that you made that you want to tell others not to make if they're planning on going next year, or any things that you kind of discovered over there?
One of the first things you should do if you plan to go there 2024 is to really take a look into, if you're planning to attend some sessions, take a look at them as soon as they are announced, and go through the list, which is it's going to be a huge list. So hopefully you're going to use your browser instead of your mobile phone for that, and definitely go through the list and mark some interesting, maybe 1 or 2 sessions per day that you'd like to attend, and mark yourself as that you're going to attend that session. If you do that late, like I did, then basically all the seats have been taken, and okay, you can enter the sessions, but you have to queue in and really be there, let's say, an hour or half an hour before the session starts, instead of just being there just like 10 minutes before it starts. So that's one really something I will do if I go there again. I will, one way or the other, I will have time to go through the session list beforehand.
Yeah,
that's something I didn't do, and it kind of it was a mistake.
Yeah, kind of something that people.
I mean, didn't ruin my trip, but still something I would do.
This is a good topic. This is something that not all people understand. The way I approach it is that my time at the venue is limited, right? So now it was, what was it, 4 days, 5?
We arrived on Sunday and
4.5. maybe.
left on Saturday morning. So basically, 5 days, and Friday didn't have that much going on, right?
Yeah, it's like Friday morning, and then there's like on Monday there's nothing really happening because there's just the reruns and then the Monday Night Live. So I would say 4.5.
Yep.
But yeah, so it's
But
limited.
4.5 full days.
Yeah.
It depends what your regular workday is, but they are, if you want, they can be really long days.
Yeah, but the thing is that it's still limited. My time there is limited, so I need to consider whether it's worthwhile to really consume a session in a very in a very uneconomic way, right? Because when you're going for, let's say that there's a 45-minute session, that's not going to take 45 minutes out of your calendar, because you need to queue up for the session half an hour before. Plus, then it takes a while for you to get out of there, depending, of course, on the popularity of the session. So it's more like an hour and a half
Exactly.
than 45 minutes.
Plus the distances are quite large.
Yeah, that's the other thing that,
Yep.
of course, I'm presuming that it's in the place where you were already. So then getting to the session is its own problem as well. Now, if you compare that to consuming that same session online on YouTube, where you can also jump over the bits that are not really that interesting, it's not really efficient, right? On the other hand, so what people do is then they take their laptops with them, so then they use that extra time for doing some work. But then that again results in you doing that work while the talk is actually happening. So then you're not paying attention to the talk. So then again, it doesn't make any sense to go there. So personally, I didn't go to any of
I don't believe in multitasking.
Yeah,
it just doesn't work.
Exactly. Right. So I didn't go into any of the talks at all. I watched the keynotes live from my hotel room because I needed my morning coffee. And then, except for the Peter DeSantis one, that one was in the evening, so we went there live. And then I basically spent the rest of the time just networking, walking around the expo area. I don't know how many hours we spent there, like easily 8 hours, and I only saw maybe 20% of what is available there, which is kind of crazy. But I think that I made a lot more personal relationships by doing that, and I got a much more kind of bang for buck with that time versus if I would have been waiting for a session to start and then going to that session, even though it might have been an extremely interesting session. So I'm more of the type that I'm now watching those sessions that I would have wanted to go to, because it's just a matter of time management, really, for me.
One thing that you could do in general, if you're there and you want to really focus on something, then you might be interested in the workshops.
Yeah,
because then you really you don't multitask. You just go to a workshop and you go through the workshop, let's say 1.5 hours, 2 hours, and you have people there who will help you if you have problems with the environment. And in general, if you're fluent with AWS and the environment, I think you can solve most of the problems yourself anyway. But if you're a bit more newcomer, you're not that fluent with AWS, then it really helps that there is a person who will help you if you get stuck, or if you want to just ask more questions about the topic, because the people who are helping there really, really, really know the topics of that specific service or area.
I don't know if you know this, but the workshops used to be a separate charge. So ages ago, when dinosaurs still dwelled on Earth and I went to
When
my
you were
previous
born?
reInvent. Yeah, no, when I went to my previous reInvent. Then the workshops were like full day workshops, and they would happen on like Monday and or Friday when there's less content, and there would be a separate charge, like I remember $150 or $300 or something for them. And nowadays that's different, right? So they're, first of all, they're free. Of course, you should reserve
Free.
beforehand. Yeah.
You do pay for the, quite a lot to get into the.
Yeah, but okay, they're
into
part
reInvent.
of the ticket.
Yeah, let's be accurate here.
Yeah, and then they're shorter. They're not full day workshops, but
Which I like. I mean,
Yeah.
a full day workshop, of course, it's split into different, let's say, modules, and you can go and you don't have to do everything. But a full day sitting on one, just doing one topic. Okay, if you're super focused, that's okay. But I'm willing to bet that most of people are, well, they don't want to spend a full day sitting there instead of doing other things as well.
Yeah, it's quite a commitment, right? And again, I'm thinking about economics here, like
And
do I have
and from the learning point of view, it might be more beneficial to split the full day into 4 sessions and do it in 1 week instead of in one go, because you will just forget what you did on the first hour if you do 8 hours straight. Maybe a lunch break there, but still.
So if I remember correctly, you took one of the workshops, right?
A couple of workshops. I'm trying to think which ones they were. But
you want to talk about the experience? How was it? Did you register beforehand, or did you just show up?
I just figured out that, okay, today there's some interesting sessions and maybe a workshop that I want to attend to, and then some of the workshops, well, I just went there, queued. I didn't have a seat, but I queued and I got in, and they were actually quite well organized. Also, as an instructor, I paid I maybe was paying attention to different details than the other participants, because I was looking from the instructor point of view as well, how they present the topics and how well, let's say, slowly the things started. So everybody was really able to join, even if they didn't have that much experience with AWS environments. And I really saw that some people were very new or recent to AWS and handling the complexities of management console and all that. So they were well organized. And actually, the last one I didn't even have time to finish it, so it was rather long one. But the hour, I think the shortest could have been only 1 hour, and the longer one, or the longest ones, were 2 hours.
Okay.
Good time. I mean, of course, if I'm super excited about something, I can focus for 8 hours. That's not a problem. But in general, if you're in a conference and it's day 3 or day 4, you're slightly tired already, and shorter sessions and workshops are probably a good idea, as they were not too long.
Yeah, I totally get that. So maybe next time I'll take a look myself as well.
If nothing else, then from the instructor point of view.
Yeah, and it was possible to queue in. You didn't have to have a seat pre-registered.
It was possible to queue in. Yeah, I didn't have. Maybe for one workshop, I was lucky enough to get a seat, and for the others, even though people do cancel their attendance, so one seat is available, but while you're browsing the today's sessions and workshops, the free ones will go immediately away. So
yeah, there are quite a lot of people.
Maybe next year I will or next time. I don't know if I'm going there next year, but next time I need to pay more attention to what I want to get. But of course, this was the first time, and you just don't have the experience.
Yeah. So, what was your highlight for the week? What was the one thing that was kind of above everything else?
I really enjoyed the keynotes. They were super good, and I did attend 3 of them in person and 1 virtually. I just my breakfast took too long, and I didn't have time to go in there.
Mikko is very, very specific about his breakfasts. I know.
Yeah, I don't function well if I don't have breakfast. So highlights.
The one highlight.
The one highlight. I was really interested in the way the technical details that were mentioned on how the database storage layer works, and that was super interesting, because many of the databases that AWS has actually is building on top of common components, even though they're completely different databases. For example, a graph database or a relational database or something else. They are using similar components or same components, at least partly, or similar concepts in the background.
Yeah, I think
that was super interesting.
Yeah, I think they even told us the internal name of the layer.
Yeah, there were two. There were two components there: Grover and Caspian.
Grover and Caspian. All right.
Yeah, and I can't find anything from the net. At least last time I checked, Caspian doesn't.
AWS doesn't in general advertise the implementation details of a lot of their technologies. So it's always nice to hear about how they really work, because that then gives you the possibility to kind of extrapolate from that, where the choke points are and how far things can scale and so on. I really enjoy that as well. So for you, it was. Where was that? Was it in the Peter DeSantis talk, or?
Was it the Monday?
Yeah, Peter DeSantis.
Monday evening.
Yeah. So like.
While we still had lots of energy and.
If we just kind of show the viewers, so it's this middle one here, the Peter DeSantis talk, which usually talks about the infrastructure layer, kind of below.
And that was definitely infrastructure.
Yeah, cool.
And also one other thing was really inspirational for me was the talk, the last keynote. Or was it?
Yeah, Werner Vogel's. That's my highlight.
Yeah. Well, you speak then about that. So what was your highlight?
I gave it away already. No. It's always, I would say, it's always going to be Werner Vogel's. Not only because he's Dutch, but he has this ability of looking at technology trends in a very kind of a distant way to generalize. Like sometimes, like when we are talking about technology, we're with Peter DeSantis, who is very specific. He's going to tell you that there is a new chip that does wonderful things, or that there is a new way that the internal network works, which gives us less latency, which is great. Like, I'm a geek. I like that kind of stuff. But then Werner Vogels is able to kind of give us really general, directions of where things are going to, without too much technical detail. and that's always so interesting. At this time, the topic was very close to what I talk about when I talk about DevOps, monitoring, observability, cost. So I was really happy that like a lot of my own thoughts are aligned with kind of what you could think of being AWS's technology strategy thoughts. So you kind of know that it's good to get some reassurance about that. And then it's also a little bit of a cult happening. Like the biggest thing with Werner Vogel's keynote is always, which band's T-shirt does he have on? That's like really interesting.
What did he wear this time?
I forgot the name, but yeah, it was like a pretty underground band anyway, that they usually are. And then he always has these really well-produced videos that kind of interlope with the live keynote. So that's also interesting to see. He also has these YouTube series. I don't know if you've ever watched them.
No.
Now Go Build is like
Sounds
this.
familiar.
Yeah, it's like this whole series. We're kind of traveling around the world to see different kinds of cool projects. So let me just share that with you, just you, nobody else. You maybe take a look at some point. Quite a lot of interesting stuff. They're like, what, 3 seasons of this. So maybe a good idea to look at. And the style is similar, so very high stuff, cool technologies, maybe not that much details at all.
I remember he's saying that if he can build something, then you can build as well.
Yeah, I'm not really sure about that though, because it's really smart. So much smarter than me.
That's a lot.
Yeah, one thing that was interesting this year was this series of innovation talks. So to be honest, I didn't have time to watch them yet. But there were fairly interesting topics here, and there are quite a lot of them. These are kind of quite short talks compared to keynotes, kind of trying to put together ideas from different kinds of contexts, right? So we have, for example, AI, ML, analytics, and architecture in here. So in case you didn't make it to reInvent, and you kind of want to get the general gist of what is new with AWS, then this might be, an economic way to go through stuff. So find out what the generic, the big picture stuff is, and these are available for, all kinds of contexts. So pick and choose, the ones that interest you. They're either based on the industry or then the technology. So kind of interesting stuff.
Any idea how much content there is from reInvent now? The official content, ballpark figure. Like
They did say it in one of the well, let's Google for it, right? reInvent 2023 number of sessions, right? So over 2,000 sessions.
But how many were recorded? Not all of them were recorded.
Yeah, so the chalk talks and that kind of stuff are not recorded. So the breakout sessions only are, but quite a lot. And I can think we could look at AWS Stash. This is a indexing service for AWS related content. So if we go to YouTube, And then we set up a filter for 2023 and reinvent. So in AWS Stash, we got 731 videos online.
Let's say they're 45 minutes each.
Well, they're going to be on average like maybe an hour.
Okay.
So
it takes you a little bit more than a week to go through that.
Yeah, 730 hours. It's going to take you 30 days, so a month.
Non-stop.
Yeah, to watch through.
No bathroom breaks. Well, you can take your phone to your bathroom.
Well, you can watch some of them at like 1.5x, and then you can take a bathroom break every now and then. And of course,
definitely you wouldn't be, to be honest, you wouldn't be interested in all of those. Some of them are more to more technical labeled people, and some of them are more business.
Well, we as instructors,
of course,
we are required to watch them all. That comes with the job. That's something that we can do about it.
Yeah, but in general,
something about some of them.
But in general, people wouldn't be that interested in every single session that there is.
Yeah. But yeah, cool stuff.
Because actually, for example, I did attend to one session that wasn't that interesting, well, two sessions. One of the first ones and one of the last ones that I attended, they weren't that good. I mean, technically, everything worked. One was a virtual one, and one was I was actually sitting there. But out of all the things I went to, then only two of them were not almost spot on. So that I would say the same thing would happen to anybody who goes there and just or just goes through the videos, that not all of them are exactly what you're looking for.
Yep.
Of course.
Definitely. Any kind of announcements that were on your top list?
Funny you should ask. How convenient. Announcements, yes. There were a lot of serverless options to the existing services.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I was surprised, but I was happy to hear about, because from my point of view, I've been developing software as a profession for about 25 years. And the longer I've been doing it, the less I want to do with the infrastructure, and I'm really shifting, and I have been shifting towards using services as just services without having to actually understand every single technical detail, or I couldn't care less about running a database itself. It's really irrelevant from the software writing point, at least most of the time. And therefore, the serverless services are really interesting to me. It really solves the problem of having to, let's say, manage a database or a file system or something else, or cache. You wouldn't, and maybe you personally are not doing that, but someone else from your organization might be doing that. And from my point of view, well, it's not complete waste of time, but it's a little bit of waste of resources nowadays, especially if you are in the cloud already. Of course, if you're operating on-prem, then somebody has to operate those and run the databases and other services. But if you're in the cloud, then for quite a lot of use cases and scenarios, the serverless services work very well. And you get to focus on the important part, the core part. Your business is not about like running the database, but it's about the data and getting the data out from the database, and you being able to push humongous amounts of data to the database per second. That's your business.
Yeah, my kind of problem with this is that we're currently using the word serverless pretty liberally, right? So with serverless, I kind of traditionally presume that the service is going to be built per usage, right? So per transaction type of usage. But now we've seen quite a lot of serverless services where there is actually a minimum continuous charge, like Elasticache, for example. Like there is a Elasticache serverless option. However, there is a minimum charge per month, which makes sense, right?
I was just going to say that it makes sense. It needs to be ready all the time because it's a cache.
But then, you know, why does DynamoDB work in a truly serverless way?
Right? Yeah, that's a good point.
So maybe we do need to have two different names for the per transaction pricing product, and then the product where, okay, it's serverless from the point of view that we don't need to do any auto scaling or anything. It just kind of works, but there's going to be this kind of fixed sum, and it's actually quite a large sum. So it's
so if you want to just try out the service and leave it running, then that can be costly.
So what did you do that in our corporate account now?
Of course, just to figure out how expensive it's going to be.
Yeah, so we will be surprised by another big bill at the end of this month.
Yeah, there are some databases running. Yeah, I ran or delivered 4 databases cores in a row, so hopefully everything is deleted now.
Full disclosure. Usually we don't pay for AWS services. We have enough credits for it. But Mikko sometimes gets a little bit excited and goes over what we have available.
Just once. But one announcement was the Aurora Limitless database. That was interesting. Aurora has a serverless option already, or had a serverless option, but it was not able to scale the writing speed that well. I mean, it does scale, but not without interruptions. There were some limits, and this is due to the fact that when you scale your database, you make it larger and larger, then at some point you hit the limit of the physical hardware. When you hit the bare metal server size limit, then that's the largest writer instance that you can have. And Aurora Limitless database takes care of that. So it can
so previously we had to do that manually, right? So we would be sharding the database manually.
And you've been doing we haven't been doing that, but DBAs and database designers have been doing that since we were not even born yet.
Yeah, and then nowadays
the capabilities of databases were so limited from the just basically the hardware and speed point of view that you really had to partition your data. You really, really, really had to design the database tables and the collections of tables very, very well.
And previously, there were these open source proxies that would basically make that transparent, so that you could use the database as it would be one database, and then the proxy would basically forward the query to the correct backing shard of the database. And Limitless now just kind of does that as part of the product offering, so that you don't need to.
And again, from the user point of view, that's the way we should have it.
Yeah, it just works.
Right? It just works, and we are not interested in, well, as a curious person, I am interested in what happens there behind the scenes. But from the user who is using the service, they don't need to worry about that there is a proxy and there are several different databases in the background, and who is doing the maintenance and who is patching and security updates and all that. That's completely, how should I say? Well, nowadays it's stupid to pay attention to those details unless you really are running some super weird system, and then you have to know every single 0 and 1 that is flying around the system. But for 99.999% of us, that's not the case. At least that's my experience from my clients and just general like knowledge, that most of the time you're just using the services and databases as regular databases.
Exactly. Can you guess what my favorite announcement was?
Yes, it was 4 or 5 times, and it was the time when the bars opened.
I was talking about the product announcements.
Okay. For you, let me think. Something related to SageMaker?
Not directly, no.
Okay. Tell me.
S3 Express.
Yeah, it's on my list as well.
So just having the kind of object storage that S3 is, but have low latency. So it's kind of related to SageMaker, because very often we're using our training data in S3, and the problem there is that there is this kind of up to 1 second latency to actually get streaming the data to your machine learning environment, which then basically makes you download it once and then run it locally instead of being able to stream it, right? And now with S3 Express, I think we're actually able to change that into streaming, so we don't need to have any.
And the full name is S3 Express One Zone.
One Zone, yeah. That's kind of how we get that low latency, that we limit it to 1 AZ only. Yeah.
And so that, of course, limits there with the availability.
Yeah. It's not meant for long-term storage.
Yeah. So you
think about
would you move data to Express One Zone and then use it from there, and then delete
because now we're moving it to an EBS drive, right? So, but like
so let me ask you, because I was wondering about this, some use cases for this. Tell me now, if you think about it, the latency was single-digit millisecond, right?
Yeah.
Something in that order. And what's the latency for DynamoDB?
Single-digit milliseconds.
Same. So what's the biggest difference there then?
The size of the object.
Size of the object with S3, 5 terabytes.
Yeah, there might be a different number for Express. I haven't.
Oh yeah, it could be something else, but probably a couple of orders of magnitude larger than with DynamoDB, which is 400 kilobytes.
Yeah, exactly.
And what else? What else is different?
Most likely the charges are going to be.
Okay, yeah, charges are different, and also how about with DynamoDB? It's a database, so you can do searches. And so
like how do you do searches in DynamoDB?
Well, it's sorted, and you have the data is sorted, and you have
it's sorted in S3 as well.
Yeah. So my question is, DynamoDB, you can, let's say, fetch certain with certain parameters. You can very efficiently narrow down what you get back. But with Express One Zone, you know the key to the object, and that's it.
That's the same thing with DynamoDB. You know the key to the object, and then you get access to it.
Okay.
So you still, even if you do a query or a scan and you put some parameters in there, you still pay for access to the full data set, right? So.
Yeah, well, definitely with scan you do.
Yeah, and with query for the full partition.
Full partition.
Or whatever.
But if you, let's say there is the sort key is a date, and you want only data from the last month.
Yeah, but it's the same as you have the key itself. Okay, so you save list the keys.
But if you have 1,000 years worth of data and you're just asking for the data for a particular month, then you are not accessing the whole database, of course.
Yeah, but then you would also only access that file in S3 Express.
Exactly, but how? So how did you actually try the Express One Zone already?
No.
So do you know if there are any? Is it just a different storage class, or do you have other ways
There
of
are other
accessing the
changes.
disk?
So it supports directories, for example.
Yeah. So that was I saw the directory, but that was for other storage classes as well. Or was it?
No.
There was something mentioned about that. Because I was actually trying to clean my S3 buckets. There are lots of stuff. Well, actually, not that many. I have lots of photographs there, and that's the bulk of my credit usage comes from the photographs. But I saw the directory mentioned there as a new thing, so I'll just have to go back and see what that is.
Yeah.
I was trying to quickly peek at it, but it's asking for my MFA key, and my phone is
Yeah.
right here.
But like shortly, it's expensive storage, less expensive than EBS, and then it's fairly low access costs. So it should work very nicely. And this also gives you a little bit more throughput. Maybe another use case instead of just machine learning would be like video or media transcoding. That's kind of one of the problems that we have. In principle, we can do media transcoding really nicely because we have, limitless amount of compute available, and then we can parallelize up to the level of chunks of video, right? But the problem is that with the current throughput of S3, we basically need to first download the video onto an instance and then transcode it and then upload it back again. So this could change with S3 Express, so that we could actually stream both incoming and outgoing video and then only do the compute in the compute instance. So only do the transcoding. That could really help with a lot of use cases in the media space as well. Because right now we need to get EC2 instances that have EBS disks that need to be fairly fast, because otherwise the GPU is just waiting for data to arrive, and that's not efficient at all.
So let's think about the future here. In the future, so now we have different kinds of storage classes for S3. We have EBS drives, volumes with the different capabilities. So what happens in the future? If you think of if things just speed up, would we have in the future just one S3 storage class that's fast enough and it's just storage, and we don't have to, just like we talked about the serverless services and regular databases, for example, we have different kinds of implementations, and we sometimes have to choose between the implementations to get the most appropriate one for our task. And serverless kind of hides that away. But would the storage go that way too, in general? So we just have storage.
The problem kind of is that EBS is block storage, and then there's going to be a file system running on top of that, and S3 is object storage. So
let's split that into two. Would we just have EBS storage, so block storage and object storage, and that's it?
Well, we need something in between. Well, actually, there were some changes to S3 that now allow kind of a directory-based access. I think that's what you thought.
So what's the concept with directories and S3 now?
No, it's not directories in S3. It's directories in your identity provider. So if you have like an organization that has user groups, and now what you can do with
different directories here.
Yeah. So if you have a directory of users, now you can map prefixes in S3 with those users and kind of give them permissions. So it's kind of a
Ah,
third way to give permissions into S3, because we know that we can't use ACLs because they're metadata on the objects, so they're difficult to control. And then with IAM, we have the problem of 20K maximum policy documents, so we can't do very granular access. So now we have that kind of additional way of working. So that's kind of one of the things that was missing beforehand. Where
I was talking completely about different thing here. So
no, but that's one of the things why we maybe don't need to have things like EFS in the future, because EFS used to be the only way for us to have a shared file system between multiple computers that can mount it, and then we can give directory level access permissions based on or even file level permissions based on a user directory, right? And
now you're talking about two different directories.
Yeah, I am.
Directory in the file system and the directory
user directory.
User directory. So that was confused. I was
So
was there.
S3 didn't used to have that, but now that S3 has that, then maybe we don't need EFS anymore. Maybe if S3 becomes performant enough, then we might use that as the shared storage layer, because it is already read after write consistent. The only thing that is missing is file locking currently, but that could be implemented using a driver or something like that uses like DynamoDB or something for the file locks. So that's kind of maybe what I'm seeing. So that the way in the future we're going to have EBS, which is still we need to have for EC2 instances to load the operating system to run, and then we have maybe S3 in some future form for all kinds of data, and we can actually mount that.
Kind of thinking.
Yeah,
but
and I just told you the reason why.
Yeah, but I googled to AWS S3 or Amazon S3, and there exists a directory bucket.
Ah, cool.
There is a directory bucket. So I'm even more confused now. And directory bucket, straight from the documentation, says we recommend using directory buckets for workflows that require low latency.
Yeah, directory bucket use
hundreds of thousands of transactions.
It's directory bucket. That's the way that you get the Express one zone storage class. Yeah. It's nothing else. If you create a directory bucket, then it goes into the Express storage class.
This gets really confusing for. I've been talking about S3 always and making sure that I talk about prefixes and not directories, because it's a flat structure. Well,
that's true. It's still true.
Now we have directory buckets, and
no, directory buckets go into Express one zone, because that's not S3, it's a different system. And then general purpose buckets go into the other S3 storage classes. So I think we're still okay, but it's just maybe confusing.
The naming is confusing because even the documentation. Well, actually, it doesn't. They talk about folders sometime when we actually should talk about prefixes, and that's really confusing. The official documentation kind of.
That's why I often do a demo in class when we talk about S3, where I, upload a file to be star.star, or I try to remove star.star from a bucket, and then I ask what will happen, right? So just remember that it's not a file system.
Exactly.
But yeah, we're slowly running out of time. Did you have any final thoughts, something that you wanted to say about re:Invent that didn't come up in our lively discussion?
Yeah, it was definitely worth going to. A little bit more planning maybe should be done, and of course I would have done that if I had time. I was super busy with running courses and my other things, including my family, and I just didn't have enough time. And next time I will make sure that I have enough time to plan a little bit more beforehand, and probably do the same thing as you did, spend a little bit more time in the expo and at the after how should I say that?
In the unofficial program.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there, just to first of all to have a little bit fun and to meet new people, meet new interesting people. We actually did find lots of new connections there and met really nice people. Some of who we will never see again, and some who we will probably work together with. And so it was a really good trip. What else? Maybe take a few moments or few days to actually be able to visit other places in Vegas or the surrounding area, and not just stay there.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So the way long haul flights work, like we're flying in from Europe, is that you need to spend either 5 nights or the Saturday, Sunday night at the location to get the cheaper tickets for that. Now, in our case, we did that via the number of nights. I think we both arrived on Sunday.
Yep.
And
Sunday
then we left on Saturday. So that's good enough. But kind of if you're seeing that you're having, maybe you want to arrive on Monday only, then it's usually worth it staying an extra night just to make the plane tickets work, and then you can use that to fool around in Vegas. There are also nice places around there, like the Hoover Dam is 45 minutes drive from downtown Vegas, and then downtown Vegas itself is interesting. I remember visiting a Area 51 museum very close to the Strip as well. So there's kind of interesting stuff there. Another thing that you could consider is applying to LA, because the flights to Vegas tend to fill up fairly quickly during the AWS time or re:Invent time. So you could instead fly to either Phoenix, Arizona, or LA, and then drive to Vegas, because both of those routes are actually fairly scenic and interesting, especially for us Europeans. We don't have that kind of deserts and stuff.
Not yet.
Yeah. So maybe next time when you go, Mikko, try that option.
Yeah.
I'm personally, I'm kind of dreaming about the year that I could both afford economically and maybe physically and mentally to take my whole family with me. So to take the kids, because there's plenty of stuff to do in Vegas for kids and for adults, right? So you would do some adult activities yourself, and we went to see a funny show.
It was really good
together. So yeah, plenty of stuff to do. Didn't really taste
shooting
anything
range.
Sorry?
Went to a shooting range as well.
Yeah, you did that. Yeah. But otherwise, there was like, because of the early morning wake ups, there wasn't really any time to taste the nightlife of Vegas, which I think could be actually good, right? So you don't
maybe next time.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm able to do that. Let's see if you're able to do that.
I'm not. No, I like my sleep too much. Right.
We all
do. Should we call it a wrap, or did you?
Let's see. I have a list of things that we didn't cover. We will probably
let's do another one.
Do another one here, but okay. One thing that was almost every presentation was talking about AI.
Yeah, Gen AI.
In one way or the other. A bit too much, maybe even. So,
it was the same in Google Next. It is a little bit annoying, actually.
yeah, a little bit of annoying thing. Not trying to say that it's not coming. It is here already, but it definitely is some sort of a buzzword that they,
All right, maybe
one way or the other, it seems that everybody wanted to at least once mention AI.
Yeah, maybe we should have a separate session on Gen AI. Like, what does it really mean? It could be interesting.
We could do that.
All right.
All right. Anything else?
I think we're starting to run out of time, so let's wrap it up. Thanks a lot for taking part, Mikko.
Thank you.
And next time we'll get better backgrounds.
Yeah, we will at least different ones.
Maybe
we'll just flip it, and then we have different.
Maybe it's going to be our logo or something like that. Yeah. But yeah, the idea is that we'll take a look at the recording and then see whether we can publish it or not, and then possibly maybe even cut a separate version for recording purposes as well.
And the idea is to do this regularly.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for being here, Mikko, and thanks for anybody who is watching, either the live or the recorded version. And see you next time.
Take care.
Bye.